Hey Church, it's great to be with you. My name's Alex Hauser. I'm one of the pastors here on staff, and today we're continuing through in our Lent devotionals, looking at the end of chapter 23 of Matthew and the beginning of chapter 24. And here we get a glimpse of a really brief moment, but one of huge importance. As Jesus turns, he laments over the nation of Israel, and he predicts the future destruction of the temple throughout the course of chapter 24. And there's a lot of imagery here. There's a lot of symbolism here. All throughout the course of chapter 23, we've seen Jesus go to beast mode and basically call out the nation of Israel, call out the religious leaders and religious hypocrisy. And here we get a little bit of a shift in tone from Jesus, where he looks at the nation and basically says, this is not what this was meant to be. How I've longed to gather you like a hen gathers her chicks, right? And if you've ever seen a hen with her chicks, the chicks go wherever mom goes. And yet the nation of Israel has done the exact opposite. And so we see Jesus's compassion and heartfelt sorrow here for the nation of Israel. And then, as they're leaving the temple, all of his disciples look back and say, they essentially marvel at the buildings, like, look at this. And the temple is just this huge icon. Certainly for those of the nation of Israel, for those that follow after God. It's also this amazing, marvel, this feat. It's probably one of the most incredible buildings in the Middle East at this time, and yet it's all going to be destroyed. And more importantly, there's a lot of symbolism here because of Jesus, who is the fullness of God, leaving the temple, and the temple's now empty. And so, if you read through Ezekiel, Ezekiel kind of calls this one, right? He sees this vision of the glory of the Lord leaving the temple. And here it is. Here is Jesus, the fullness, the embodiment of God, walking away from the temple. The temple's empty, and he goes on to describe how it's going to be destroyed. And we know from history that in 70 AD, the temple's completely destroyed. And so there's this shift a little bit where the temple is no longer going to be the gathering place, the worship place for God's people. It'll now be Jesus. Jesus is the living embodiment. He is the walking temple. And for all of us who are called according to Christ's name, that we've been raised to life in the gospel through what Jesus will do this week on the cross, we become living sacrifices. We become walking temples for God's Holy Spirit, so to speak. And so Peter actually calls us living stones that are built up. If you want to check that out, I think it's 1 Peter 2, if you want to take a look at that as well. But 2 points for us to really pray through this morning. First and foremost, with the idea of Israel constantly walking away from the heart of God and God coming in and basically cleansing the temple. First question for us to ask this morning is, whose will am I following? Am I following Jesus and worshiping the Lord? Or am I kind of blazing my own path wherever I want to go and really just worshiping myself? I might call myself a Christian, or, maybe I show up on Sundays or do, religious things, so to speak. But whose will am I ultimately following? Who is really the Lord of my life and who sits on the throne? Secondly, knowing that if I'm a Christian, that my body is a temple, that I am a walking temple for God's Holy Spirit. What is the state of that temple, right? If Jesus were to walk in the front door and take a look around, what would he say and what would he do? And so just 2 things to really pray on for us this morning as we look forward to Lent, as we remember Christ's sacrifice and worship him for Easter. And so thanks for joining us here this morning. We'll look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow.